What's up, folks? Khalid Bay. This episode, we have another one of the candidates who are running for mayor of the city of Syracuse. Prior episodes, we hosted the Republican candidate for mayor, Tom Babylon. We hosted independent candidate for mayor, Tim Rudd. And today, we have the Democratic candidate for mayor, the winner of the Democratic primary, the current deputy mayor, Sharon Owens, is our guest today. Talk about her ideas, her thoughts about the city, plans for the city. We need you to tune in. Let's get to it. Let's talk. Welcome to Let's Talk, Khalid Bay.
It's Rob Romeo.
And today we have a very special guest, the Deputy Mayor for the City of Syracuse and the Democratic candidate for Mayor of Syracuse, Sharon Owens. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Glad to be here.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
have you with us.
Yes.
That's great. And congratulations. She is now the official Democratic nominee. Mm-hmm. She won the primary a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
In quite a large, turnout, large fashion. I mean, won by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, but great job and
Yeah,
congratulations.
I was surprised at the margin. Very proud of our team. Mm-hmm. We had a combination of people who've been around a lot, as you mentioned, Joe, and then people who have done this for the first time.
Yeah.
So it was a combination.
Well, you've obviously put together a good campaign so far, and
Yep.
you're going to ask her what she thinks of the next couple months coming up.
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think, or what you see to be the state of the city right now.
On the surface, the state of the city physically is growing. You can't miss it. Cranes everywhere. Can't go down the street without a detour, which is new to us, but in most growing cities, that's part of a growing city. So I tell people, just hold on. The landscape of our community is going to be drastically different. I would say by at least 2028, when the viaduct actually comes down. You probably remember growing up here, I don't know what city ever looked like without that highway going through the middle of it.
No.
Right.
No,
so just to think about that, and now looking north from where we are right now, you can actually see the ramps beginning to develop off of 690, traffic patterns there. It's going to be critical for us for when that viaduct comes down, the land underneath it that's controlled by the state, that needs to come over to the city.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
What do you think the time frame is for the bridge to physically come down?
At this point, last time we met with the DOT, 2028.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we got a good 3 years.
I'm really surprised they're moving on this thing. They by the mall here over on 690.
What the thing about it was
The turnarounds, yeah.
It was always supposed to be about a 10-year project, right?
It's an 8 to 10 year window.
So we're like a couple years in, right?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're finishing the southern entrance into Brighton changed again. I went by there Sunday night.
Nice.
That smaller roundabout is now a larger roundabout.
Yeah.
And so every time you turn around, the traffic patterns is changing. It's moving along.
Roundabouts are a great feature for traffic.
Absolutely.
I think that they've discovered that, or they understand that.
Right.
Our own in New York and DOT. So that's gonna be helpful. So that's one big thing. We're talking about, as you said, what it's going to look like when the bridge is down. How I know there's been some fits and starts, we'll call it, with like some of the projects that we were looking to do with, for example, with Blueprint 15. Why don't you tell us a little about where you stand with that?
Yeah, I mean, I always want to level set on the facts around the transformational project over there. The housing authority owns the land, manages the building, and is responsible for the tenants. Blueprint 15 is a not-for-profit agency under the purpose-built communities entity. that really is serving as a advocate for the tenants. Many of those tenants, Khalid, you're familiar with this, many of them, because they maybe work at Central or work at the hospital, really earn low, middle income salaries, but they choose to stay in the housing authority footprint because it's home.
That's right.
And their rents have increased because that's the HUD regulation, is that your rent is determined by how much you're earning.
Okay.
So many of them are earning wages that they can buy a home. So one thing Blueprint is doing is on a parallel path, working with home headquarters to really facilitate home ownership for people. Two individuals that have been relocated out of McKinney Manor have bought their first home, which is, the first step to economic generational wealth. And so Blueprint is still, we're going to have a change in leadership. Our director decided to pursue his business, so we're going to reset for that. We want to continue the path forward on the Children Rising Center. We had a setback with that, so we're on hold with that. Going to need to find some new investors, but the key to be able to move that project forward was site control.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't control the site.
That's right.
The housing authority did. And before anything can happen, one of the great things that came out of post the highway going up were HUD regulations protecting residents from development. And so ensuring that the site, and there were transition plans developed for each household there for them to move out, but more importantly, having the option to come back. So there's only one family left in McKinney Manor now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's major.
One family, and that family is just waiting for Housing Visions to prepare their unit.
So do you have the site control now, or
No,
it's
it's still with the
Housing
Housing Authority. So one
Okay.
thing that we're working on right now is this initiative to for the city to gain ownership of it in a kind of a swap type of thing, because they're trying to develop
I saw some of that reported.
some of the Eastwood Heights facility.
You're right.
And so I think I'm very much committed to the Children Rising Center. We're going to have to restart and find resources again. But what a great opportunity for the city to actually own that parcel near the new highway. My goal is for it to be the Children Rising Center, or it can be developed into something else that can also be additional housing or an amenity for the use of the community.
Well, this amount of money coming into the community should work as a multiplier force.
Absolutely.
Force multiplier, as they say. And so there should be housing businesses.
Right. One of the dangers is that it's been all federal money.
Now that gets delivered. So you have to keep an eye on that, because what are our congressmen and our senators saying about that? Are you working? How do you work in the era?
So oh my goodness! So for the $30 million funding we got for reconnecting communities, the Trump administration, again with a stroke of a pen, reclawed money that was also already congressionally approved. So we are not giving up on that. We're going to pursue every avenue we have. He's been forced by federal judges to reverse those decisions, but he's now going through a process of replacing federal judges all over the place now. And so I'm thankful we're in I've always been a New Yorker, New York State resident. I'm thankful I'm a New York State resident. It is really New York State. New York State has been very good to our region and to our city in particular. But they cannot fill that gap. What was the number? $750 million of funding that's not going to come to New York State now. That's a huge gap to fill, and there's no way they can do it. So what does life look like going forward? It really is about really tempering our dependency on public funds, creating public-private partnerships,
That's right.
where we can really take advantage of the new project going on Pine and Genesee. Huber Brewer is the developer. It's going to be an amazing project. I think almost 200 units in there. It's not going to be solely student housing, but open to anyone who wants to live there. And so that there is no way the amount of housing we're going to need, that not only the city housing strategy plan, the county did a strategy, and the state did one, all of them saying how much housing we're going to need. Not-for-profit can't do that alone at all. So it has to be a public-private partnership. We're looking at even public developer models, looking at that as well. And our zoning has changed us not being so dependent on single-family housing development. But a lot of people never knew that we couldn't build townhomes in the city of Syracuse.
That's right.
You
I
know?
think that's a really good point, just to kind of look at the building codes and see what we can do to adjust it for a different, decade, different
Well,
era.
I mean, rezone did a lot to take care
Absolutely.
of a lot of that.
Yes.
But that's a good segue because obviously, we talk about what's good. It's hard to ignore what's alarming, right? Housing still being an issue.
Absolutely.
Crime being an added issue. And then you have to incorporate mental health, right? The number of cases of dissociation
Yes.
that you could witness just in downtown Syracuse, right? Yes. And so when you look at those kind of things, I'm going to speak more particularly to the crime element. Has there been any thought about how to reduce or eliminate the deterrence to viable economic development?
So we have to, from 24 to 25, there was actually a 30% reduction in violent crime. That was a great trend. And the minute you have a shooting, that goes out of the window, right? So we had two high-profile shootings involving
on the night of your primary victory. It was awful.
Right.
Yeah.
Involving young people. And let's make no mistake, this is not 50-year-olds shooting 15-year-olds.
Right.
The murder at the pool was a 15-year-old who's been arrested, not convicted, but arrested, shooting another 15-year-old. And two issues, and I'm preaching to the choir. One is the access to the number of guns in our community. We'll continue to work with enforcement, which will actually, good or bad, be a little easier on its administration. U.S. Department of Justice with trafficking that's coming back. I don't know how many people know there were a huge number of individuals from Syracuse that moved to Georgia in the 90s, right? And into the early 2000s. So there is a pipeline of gun trafficking that comes from Georgia. The last big federal sting we had was an individual, because of the gun laws are completely different, going into the same gun shop, buying upwards of 75 guns and bringing them or shipping them up here. The other big problem we had that is trickier to address are ghost guns. Because ghost guns can be shipped in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 pieces in different packages and then reassembled. The components of the technology that creates the mold for the guns can be shipped in Amazon in multiple, and none of it is detectable by standard means of detection. So my hope is that technology will catch up. We're always catching up with those. We just wish that innovation was used for good and not evil, and catching up with those who are creating these bypasses to creating guns in our community. On the preventative side, I'm a proponent of, during the primary, it was all, the mayor's office to reduce gun violence, and are you going to keep it going? Yes, I am. The opinion that means the most to me is law enforcement. And when law enforcement tells me this is a good thing for us because it gives us the community side. Khalid, you know that for every shooting, there are probably 8 more being planned.
That's right.
And it is those folks who have their eye and ear on the ground who are stopping those 8 additional retaliatory shootings. I agree that we need to tighten that up. The community violence intervention, part of it needs to be tightened up a little bit more and secured a little bit more. But I don't speak against any of those folks who go out, who when I'm asleep and they're still out there, preventing the next shooting that we never read in the paper.
Right. No,
nobody ever wants to do the story of what happened to prevent the next 8 shootings.
It's good work that they're doing, the support that they deserve. As the mayor, you're going to have some tremendous opportunity, and challenges, because you're going to have a police chief that maybe you're going to have to appoint a new police chief. I don't know what the situation is. We were talking about Chief Cecil retiring.
Chief Cecil is done. He says I'm done at the end of the year.
So then, that's it. I mean, you're going to have to appoint somebody, and then Even in like the housing authority, you have certain relations with the housing authority, but I think that there's some say and control that the city has it through
Well,
the
the
mayor's
mayor
office.
appoints 5 of the 7 board members.
Yeah, so
And it is my intention to create a new dynamic on the housing authority
so that's
board.
what I'm saying. You have these abilities and these challenges that you're going to be facing with, and you have to kind of hit the ground running, so to speak, and thinking
Absolutely.
about these things going into that. That is, if you're successful, which we're thinking that you will be.
I'm running through the tape, so I'm not taking
You
anything
run
for
right
granted.
Yep. through the tape. We'll see how that goes.
So how do you govern in a Trump America?
It's interesting. Everybody has an opinion about that, and they're like, don't draw any attention to yourself. How can we not? We're Syracuse.
Right. Right.
We are an eclectic group of individuals. Part of our growth and development and what makes us is being welcoming to all communities and all people, new Americans, refugees, immigrants from all walks of life. It has slowed down and stopped through our agencies, but those neighbors still are here. It's like I use sports analogies all the time. The person loses the basketball game when they're ahead when they try to slow the game down.
That's right.
And then you lose because you stop playing your game.
That's right.
We have to keep playing our game.
Yeah.
And our game is continuing this growth
Yeah.
and using every tool we have available to do it.
Using every tool, and what I'm thinking is that there are people and organizations that have been in place for years, and as a mayor, as a leader of the lead community, so to speak, that's affected the most, that gets the most visibility. Because when you mention the region, you're talking about Syracuse. So if you can be a captain of the team and bring together, the new police chief and the sheriff, and then there's tremendous state law enforcement capabilities and assets, and even working with the federal level. If you can start to pull that together as a coalition, as a team, to work on these problems, and being the point person at City Hall, I think that may you don't want to leave anything on the table,
No.
and you want to be able to bring in all your assets.
I mean, what
to
you
combat this
described is
problem.
exactly what happened at Armory Square over the last 2 weekends. So what happened was the businesses came to us talking about economic viability, and people need to feel that the city is safe. And statistics don't mean anything if the perception is
Right.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
right.
safe, right?
That's right.
And so the businesses in the Armory Square came to us and said they started to see a trend going on. And the trend was at 2 o'clock when the party stopped, the party didn't want to stop.
Yeah. I'm
And
familiar.
people were congregating in the middle of the street, on the sidewalks, in parking lots that had been closed after hours. And you all know Armory isn't just an entertainment district, it's a
residential.
neighborhood.
That's
It's
right.
residential.
Yeah, that's right.
And my daughter lives down the block from there, and she's like, at 2 o'clock, I'm ready to go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
My mother still lives there. Right.
And so they reached out to us, and we said, okay, let's begin to take a look at what's going on. And our details, the regular details down there said, yeah, we got a growing population of people, and it's becoming dangerous. A fire truck can't get down the street. An ambulance can't get down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we mobilized many of those entities that you talked about, including probation, because many individuals, right, wrong, or indifferent, you're on probation, and there are rules, and some of those rules are you're not supposed to be out of your house past a certain time.
Yeah. Right.
And they were down in Armory Square, and the only people that would know that are probation officers.
Right.
And so we did that for 2 weekends. We'll reassess what happened over those 2 weekends, and I'm telling you, it's like whack-a-mole. I mean, we get it controlled here, and somebody finds a spot somewhere else.
That's right.
A parking lot somewhere else. You got to
Yeah.
keep an eye on, Tommy's, on the north side.
Yeah.
They converted to a restaurant. And then we were down on Valley and the
just
Valley
saw it.
Plaza.
Yeah, I saw
Right,
it.
right. And
2
so,
days ago.
so again, so what we have established is the strategy, and that strategy will shift as we need it.
Right.
With the understanding that we're still following policy and respecting people's rights, but one law is that you cannot just loiter in the street.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you have the ability to marshal a lot of different assets and bring people together. You also have the ability to look to see what's successful in other areas so that we don't have to
Yes.
reinvent the wheel every time. For example, in New York City, they've created a quality of life department with its own
Yes.
chief.
Yes.
And they're being very successful. So I mean, I'm sure
And
that I'm sure they would share with us.
And the mayor
Every-
of Baltimore, he's just initiated some
Yeah.
amazing programs there, and their gun rate has gone down by 50%.
Exactly.
I've gotten some of that information. We have learned somebody else did it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. And so one of the initiatives I started with the police department was out of 2020, which was COVID and George Floyd. That was a tough year. And one of the things I had to ask professionals in mental health and substance use is, what are these numbers we're seeing in 21, 22, 23? And they were explaining that substance use in particular is just not chemical. It is social.
That's right.
And we shut down. So the support you would have gotten from groups, you didn't get anymore. And so people who were on the track for mental health care and substance abuse care fell off because they didn't have the entire structure available to them. So what did we do? We partnered with the county, who is the safety net organization, municipality for all of us, to
So-
create what
so-
we call diversionary response, modeled out of Seattle and Denver. And so what that means is that instead of an armed police officer addressing someone with mental
Social
health, we
services.
deploy
Yeah.
a organization that works in that field. And the police department, God love them, took it on and said, absolutely, we have other things we need to prioritize. And someone struggling with those two things, those two issues, we are trained but not trained for that.
Yeah.
And so they put that program in their budget. The other challenge we have is changing the perception of people wanting to be cops.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
It is a big one.
It's a big one.
That's a
But
big one.
that is not the constituents' fault. That's ours.
Right.
And it is our problem to solve. And how can we get individuals to understand that law enforcement is an honorable profession.
Absolutely.
It pays well, and you got a great pension.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Get
so
some of the retired police officers to say how great, bring them in as testimonials, because they're living good lives now. I mean, it is difficult. It's a very hazardous position, but when you get to be 45 years old and you're retired and you have your pension, it's not, and then you can work overtime or you can get some more, pay.
the other thing that New York State did is they increased the cap for who can work. So we're getting a much younger police force now,
right.
and so we're trying to keep some of the older,
More
more
senior,
savvy senior
right.
folks. But now, I just saw a man who's finally retiring from the military, and he was like, I might join because they raised that cap. I think it's 50 years old now.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
35.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so-
yes, yes, yes.
You know, the thing is, and that on that subject, just to point out the obvious, it's obviously not the hazard. It's the job that deters people.
Right.
It's
It's
just
the
a bad
relationship. It's the relationship.
the relationship.
And
there
that is
is no relationship.
The onus on that is completely on us.
Right.
Completely
Definitely.
on us.
And we do have to get, as you were mentioning, the police back into the neighborhoods
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
foot.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that goes a long way.
So there's an initiative now enacted by Chief Cecil that in their in each officer's shift, they are mandated out of the car
Yeah.
for so many
Big
hours.
difference. It
Right.
makes a big
Mandated
difference.
out of the car. What we don't have, and this has been thrown out from individuals about, putting the storefronts back in the neighborhood, but you have to pay for that overhead.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the thing.
But they could go into established
Right.
entities on each side of town, like go into Southwest or go into La Liga or
Well,
go
the thing
into
that I
Northside.
had pitched before was the protection or security in lieu of rent.
Okay.
Which is what some people did in the past. And I
Yeah.
think there's plenty of property owners
Right.
on a main thoroughfare who would be open to, I'll waive that rent as long as you cover your
You got
utilities.
to make sure you give Khalid a call because he's got an idea here.
Especially as long as they know that at any given
makes a-
time they'll be called out of that space.
That's
But
right.
no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They'll definitely, because it protects,
Yeah.
right now, they don't have any recourse
Right.
for
Yeah.
Right.
the loitering and
Right.
the shots fired and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And it is doomed to repeat,
Yes.
depending on the temperature outside.
And I'm gonna go down a road that you have talked about for years, is that civil service process.
Yeah.
And understanding that the county oversees all civil service. And but the problem for the Syracuse Police Department is that the timing of when we're recruiting and getting a class, that civil service list is used by every municipality that's running a police department, including the sheriffs.
Okay, so
And-
then
So then many times we're the last to the line to get individuals in.
Right.
Despite us in negotiating bonuses for sign-on bonuses and the like for people to come on board, lateral transfers without a residency requirement for individuals to come on. And we are getting people from DeWitt and getting people from other places to police in Syracuse. So, yes.
So we want to hear your thoughts, your comments. Please leave a comment. Of course, like, subscribe. And so we can cut this part out because he can let us know how close we are to the battery running out or something like that. But we're going to wind down. But anything in addition you want to add, or Rob, if there's any additional thoughts or questions?
Well, I just was thinking that, you touched on the main issues that are facing the city. To me, one of the other ones is to have a strong and really, powerful DPW department.
Yes.
I think the roads and the cleanliness of the streets go a long way for quality of life. It also impacts safety. It also impacts homelessness. So is that something that's on your agenda? Or how
Absolutely on my agenda. I'm very proud of what we did for the trash can program. I think it has been a game changer
I think it's a game
to
changer. I think
clean
it's
up
great.
this city.
It's great.
The other thing when we talk about federal impacts is that many of our large tip projects and those road projects are federally funded. So we'll whether that is bonding or finding sources through the state to really take a look at how we're doing that. A couple things just before we wrap up is that I want to make sure that we're talking about inclusive economy. The city is building, the city is growing. How we are just blowing smoke if we're talking about poverty without talking about increasing the incomes of households.
Yeah. That's right.
And poverty is a financial definition. It's financial, and so until we are having what we're addressing as we should are the residual effects of housing, of poverty, poor choice, limited choice in housing, limited choice in food options, limited choice in healthcare because of poverty. They are not the source of poverty. Financial stability for a family is the source of poverty. That's why our workforce initiatives, that's why business growth is incredibly important because businesses hire people.
Yeah, we have to be business friendly.
Absolutely.
Have to bring the business community together.
Absolutely.
In forums and see what they have in mind, what solutions they can come up with for hiring, and then be able to create the workforce that fills that need.
Yeah.
I want to throw out what I think was probably one of the biggest ball drops, not by any particular administration, but just overall. Neighborhood business corridor redevelopment. In 2005 we did Metro Edge.
Yep.
Right. They showed a retail purchasing power of just over 123 million a year in the Solon Street trade area between Adams and Brighton, Route 81 Midland.
Right.
We did a study in 2019 when I was on the council. That number increased over 126 million a year, even with the unfortunately underperforming food cooperative and other things over there. And so the market demand for the Solon Street corridor has never been met. Right? People are still spending money outside of the area for what does not exist on the corridor. And I think that is, while that one probably performs better than most, at least according to past studies it does. When you look at Geddes redevelopment, which is clearly on the part of the people who are investing there, we can't ignore violence as a deterrent. But one thing we've witnessed over the years, either demolition or construction deters crowds, and so a lot of what people may fear in terms of development opportunity or the environment in areas that could be developed is the understanding that sometimes when you develop, those crowds disperse.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. When there's activity, and that's going to create a safe zone, and a safe zone creates more people wanting to come.
We've really doubled and tripled down on SEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, and that is really an acronym and a fancy term for cleaning up brush, getting line of sight, putting up lighting, and we have
yeah.
our LED system now,
Yep.
taking down buildings where they need to be taken down.
Yeah.
You remember the days of S&I
Yeah.
when we demolished, and people were like, you're demolishing everything. It opened the door
That's right.
for new development.
That's right.
And people, it's easy for people to say, oh, you're demolishing stuff and building new. Well, the people who live in those properties want new.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
They want new energy efficient buildings. And so, yeah, I am excited about this moment in our city. I think there are lessons that we learned, particularly when everything started downsizing in the 90s and we had no path for career development for people, and making sure we don't make that mistake again. And for me, in this race for mayor, the important thing I want people to know is that I have executive experience. I know how to manage people, money, and services. And that's what the city does. It manages people, services, and money. And absolutely on a much greater scale. And the biggest, you asked me, biggest thing to worry about, you mentioned Fed, is pulling together the smartest minds in our community to address our deficit. We have to generate revenue. We have to identify. We cannot let our tax base shrink. I am not anti-SU. I am not anti-Upstate. I am not anti-St. Joe's, Lemoyne. They're all economic drivers and educational institutions, but they cannot erode our tax base anymore.
Yeah, I was about to say, because, I always say, nonprofits pop up like bugs in the summer. So we got, yeah.
But Dunbar doesn't tax my ability to provide service to them like Upstate Hospital
That's
does.
right, yeah.
But Upstate Hospital is clearly, we're a city, eds and meds.
Yeah, we
we're
have to have
clearly.
it. We have to have it.
SU build to your heart's desire, build on your campus.
On your property that you already own.
South Campus looks the same way it did when I graduated from there in
Right.
1985.
You got a lot of room to build.
Acres up there.
Right,
You
you're
can build
already
a whole new
got that.
community
That's
up
right,
there.
yeah.
So instead of coming further down Genesee Street, go into South Campus and
Yeah.
create
Well, if they're going to
a
come down
community there.
Genesee Street, pay through taxes.
Pay the taxes.
Pay the taxes.
That's what's got
Pay
to
the
be.
taxes.
It's got to be. You can
no.
come, but you got to
Just
pay your
because you
taxes.
build something.
Yeah.
And we all know that what was built down there was not university housing, it was private housing.
Right.
But just because you build something and a student lives there, it does not make it student housing.
That's right.
And you do not get a tax exemption
That's
for that.
right.
Our tax base cannot erode. It must
can't take it.
grow.
You
You
can't
got to
take
get
it.
some good lawyers on your team, and you got to go after this stuff and really challenge this.
I'm going to tell you, the corporation counsel I have right now, Sue Katzoff, is fearless.
You're good.
She
Absolutely.
went after the Greens. She's Nob Hill. We're having problems with them. We just took them to court. You remember Nob Hill used to be called Snob Hill because you couldn't live
Couldn't
there.
even live there.
Couldn't live there. And
Right.
now it is people really focus on who is developing it. I want to know who's managing it,
Right, right.
because that's where it can fall apart.
So again, questions, comments,
This is Sharon.
please leave them.
She's got
Like, subscribe.
She's our nominee.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think you did a great
Thank
job.
you.
You're doing a great job.
you.
And I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
it.
going to have some beauty and grace in your administration, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
You're going to have
Good
some.
words. It's good words. All right. Appreciate you coming by, Khalid Bey,
Rob Romeo.
Sharon Owens. Catch you on the next one.